you don't know, you damn well should know. My name is Ragreynolds, and today I'm asking the question, is France a real place? Now, I've talked about numerous countries in the past, and it's been a while since I've given my opinion on whether I think a specific country is real or not. Now, I've been thinking about France for a while. France is a country that I have actually visited twice. It is a country with a very rich history, a country with a lot of culture. I even saw a stat earlier today that said in 2012 France was the most visited country in the world. I'm unsure if that's still relevant today, but 7 years ago that was the case. But is it real? Well, I'm here to answer that question for you. The first thing I think of when I think of France is snail. Now, I make fun of French people before in videos. I've had a French guy with a couple 100,000 subscribers who made a video about me. So I made a response to him, and in that response I spoke his language back to him. And I call the French language snail. I say, I do not speak snail. So I had to use, obviously, Google Translate to translate some answers back so I could then try and read them out to respond to him. But yes, I call the French language snail. And I do not speak snail. But why do I call it snail? Well, that's because one of their most famous dishes, one of the most famous dishes coming out of France is a very disgusting thing. It's called escargot, and that is snail. Do you see this? This is the most disgusting, vile thing I could ever imagine eating. It looks like mucus, it looks like snot. How anyone could eat this and not throw up for the rest of their lives every 5 minutes, just remembering the traumatic event of eating this, is beyond me. It certainly would not be me eating this disgusting thing. Now, just because a country is known for a disgusting food dish, that does not necessarily mean that the country is fake. But that, compiled with many things, could mean that. I mean, who in their right minds actually wants to eat snail? Who thinks that's a good idea? Sounds strange to me to say that, let's sit down and eat some delicious snails. Who actually says that? I don't believe anyone really said that. I find it very hard to believe, unless it was some sort of practical joke or someone was just that hungry. Maybe it was some dirt poor peasant who had no food and he had to survive eating snails because it's the only thing he could find, and then he eventually rose and grew into power and money, and then people are making fun of him his whole life for eating snails. So instead of conceding and saying, yeah, I shouldn't have been eating those snails, that was a horrible thing, I'm pathetic for eating snails, maybe instead what he did was he pretended as though he was ahead of his time and that eating snails was an amazing thing to do. So instead of letting the bullies get to him, he got the bullies to eat the snails, and then everyone started eating snails and no one was laughing at him anymore because snails was now a dish to eat in France. This sounds like some sort of weird Disney fairy tale. I don't know, this doesn't sound very probable to me. Maybe that's because the place doesn't actually exist, but if it doesn't exist, then I did go there twice. How did I go? I mean, I've got a whole theory about how when I went to Australia it was actually fake. I mean, I could have been drugged on the plane, and maybe it could have been the same for France, who knows. But on the subject of food, they also eat this thing called frog legs. It sounds very strange to me. I've never seen a very big frog, so I wouldn't imagine it to be a very good dish, but I googled some pictures of frog legs and this is what appears. And I'm looking at this, and here's another one, and I'm just like, damn girl, you've got a big booty, you looking thick, you looking fine. Look at this one, is that balls? Does this one have balls? Okay, I don't want that one. Okay, to be fair, I would maybe try these frog legs. They don't look too bad. I mean, they look kind of hot almost, actually. Yeah, I'd maybe try eating them. Someone told me once they taste like chicken. I don't know if that's true. But I don't know where they're getting these frogs. Are these like genetically modified frogs? Are they like feeding these some steroids or something and like trying to bulk them up, giving them weights and shit? I've never seen a thick frog like this. Most frogs are tiny little things. But hey, while we're on the subject of food, we cannot forget the staple. Hon, baguette. 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 Baguette is the best French thing. The French, if they ever did one thing right, it was baguette. Because baguette is amazing. French bread. French bread. It is wonderful. And I could sit there all day just eating nice French bread and nice salted butter, and oh, I want that right now. But now let's get off the subject of food, because I've not had lunch yet and I'm quite hungry. This is just teasing me. I feel like I've spent far too long in this video talking about the food as well. Food really has no bearing on if a country is real or not, so I don't know why I've spent so long ranting about food. Let's move on to something more important, such as the Eiffel Tower. This is supposed to be some amazing landmark that people from all over the world go to visit and see. Yay! It's not very impressive. It's just a metal point. Yay? What? Like, what's the appeal here? I don't see what the appeal of this thing is. It's like someone just sat a stick up in the middle of a field. Why do I care about this thing? You expect me to believe that people actually visit France to see this thing? I don't believe that. Well, how about the fact that until 6 or 7 years ago, it was illegal for women in France to wear trousers? Bet you didn't know that one. Isn't that an insane thing? Is that something you can really believe that a real place would enforce? I mean, we're not talking about the Middle East here. We're not talking about where women have to just cover their entire bodies and not be seen at all. We're talking about Europe, a civilized part of the world. And you expect me to believe that until like 6, 7 years ago, women couldn't wear trousers? Very suspicious. But now, hey, maybe none of what I'm saying means a great deal to you. Maybe none of what I'm saying really matters in the grand scheme of things. But what if I told you about some places in France? What if I told you about some place names? Would you believe that there is actually a place in France called Pussy? What about the place called Condom? Do you believe that's a real place? Okay, you believe that's a real place? Well, I've got news for you. I'm not very good at speaking snail, but I'm going to try. La mort aux juifs. Do you know what that means when you translate it to English? It means death to Jews. There is a place in France, or there was a place in France until very recently called Death to Jews. You expect me to believe that there is truly a place in France called Death to Jews? To me it sounds like France was created by the Nazis. There is no other possible explanation that is entering my head right now. It's like, how could this place exist if it wasn't just for Nazis fabricating it? Like, who else would have put in there that name of that place? No one else would have put that name in there, unless it's some 12-year-old with edgy humour trying to be shocking. But I don't think we're letting 12-year-olds name places. And have you got any answer for me? Anyone watching this? Can you leave a comment? Tell me, okay, who named this place other than the Nazis? Because I can't think of anyone who would have named this place other than Nazis. Now, I know I said I was done talking about food, but this one is very shocking. Did you know that at one point in time, potatoes were illegal in France? I think that tells you all you need to know about the French. I think that tells you all you need to know about whether or not France is a real place. They eat ridiculous things. They eat snail, but they won't eat potatoes. They eat frog leg. Wait a minute, frog? Frog legs? Frog? I'm so glad that Kermit is not here to see this. Rest in peace, old friend. I'm ready to answer the question. Is France a real place? Yes. I'm afraid France is a real place. It is a very real place, and do you know why I know France is a real place? Because of Gilles Serviette. Okay? Gilles Serviette. No place on earth, no person on earth could fabricate Gilles Serviette. I know France is real because Gilles comes from France. And Gilles is a ridiculous, disgusting person that I cannot see a single person ever coming up with. No one is going to invent Gilles because he is just that pathetic. And that's how I know France is real. Despite all these other weird things and things that I don't approve of, I know France has to be real. Because Gilles is from France. And until next time, you are all welcome, society.
Ragreynolds, the coolest lad you'll find. Ragreynolds, a Scottish mastermind. He's subject to everything he wants and worship his every single word. He's the emperor